There's a great story to NanoVi'nin and so much I want to learn about there, but I want to start with you because as I understand, you're a serial entrepreneur. You have this PhD in international strategic alliances and economic development. So how did you get from that to being involved with this healing tech company and now pushing this to the world?
Well, it's kind of ridiculous. I was my first company was in 1995. Internet-based business-to-business in international trade and logistics. And I stayed in that field up until about 2005. And then I had a couple companies. The last one I'd worked for, there'd been a buyout, and I'd worked for them a couple years, and I'd planned to take some time off. And I thought, okay, a nice break. But then I offered to help Hans Eng, who's my partner, and he was just kind of getting going, and he's German. His English was really very different than it is today.
Limited.
and so I was more and more involved in it and handling more and more things. And then I realized, oh, this is really cool because it helps people. And that's way more fun than logistics and documentation for international shipments. And so I just kind of stayed. I thought I'd be there a couple months and just have take some time. And it just kept going and going.
That's usually how it is. You start in the rabbit hole saying this will be only a little bit of time. Next thing you know, you're deep into it and it's years later.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. And it's many years later because during all of that time, we developed the whole of NanoVi technology was developed from the late 2000, 8-ish in there up until the present. And so it's a long run to get a device to market, and all the compliance and all of that there's challenges to it. So it's been fun.
I can imagine there's a lot of challenges to it because you're talking about technology, advanced technology. You're still in the medical or health world, wellness world, and this is technology that truly is something different. You're not copying anyone else's and working off a blueprint. You kind of started from scratch here. So I want you to tell us a little bit now, switching over, about the NanoVi device, because it looks beautiful when it's lit up. And it's very Instagram worthy. I've been posting about it. But what precisely is this tech doing? What's going on inside that is allowing it to have this healing, regenerative effect on people?
Well, for anybody who hasn't seen that on Instagram, there's bubbling water on top of the device. Yes. In a container. And that's creating humidity. And the humidity is run through the internal components of the device, or the important part, which is essentially an activation or excitation of the water droplets in the airstream. And it's changing the nature of them. And then ultimately, when that is inhaled to the body, it helps change the nature of the cellular water in a way that creates a better environment for protein folding. And so when I say change the nature, that's kind of hedging, but what that really is it's creating what's called ordered water, or the water molecules are more closely packed together. And so that ordered water is what proteins rely on for their folding process. So the protein is going from being an unfolded chain of amino acids into a folded complex three-dimensional shape. And to get the energy for that, it draws on the cellular water. And so the protein becomes ordered, the water loses some of its order, and then the body is constantly recharging the water. And so what we're doing is we're augmenting that recharging of the water.
Right. So you in many ways, it's an activation, it's an energization almost of molecules that are then inhaled correctly as once they get activated, once they're going. So what are they doing? So that's what's happening with the technology. What is it doing within the body then? So you're inhaling it, you're just sitting there. There's no smell or anything. It's basically you feel a little breeze if you have the nasal, or a little breeze coming out where you're breathing in, and you're just sitting there and you're simply breathing. But what's going on inside of you while you're doing that?
So the key is that the humidity from the device touches the mucous membrane. And then once it's inside the body, there's an energy state that transfers through the body very quickly called ultra-fast transfer. It's very fast. And a good way to think of it is, the physics toy where you hold one ball up and the other end goes up?
Mm-hmm.
It's crossing over the water in the body like that rather than being diffused like a chemical might be. And so the way it works in the body it doesn't matter where it is, which is if it's respiratory or your foot, it's going to have about the same impact. And so it's because of the way the water molecules in the body are connected. 99% of the molecules in the body are water. And it's the home for everything. All the proteins are immersed in it and so on. So the water is really this key underlying structure in the body. And so when we change the nature of it, that energy state that you talked about, and for people that are interested, it's called entropy because it's not energy like heat or light that we think of, but it goes from being chaotic to being organized. And that's entropy. And so we're making it a little less chaotic, a little more ordered. And then that's what's supporting all those cellular activities.
And it's really interesting because you're talking about water, and I always thought of it, of course, as an oxygen type therapy because you're breathing it. And you don't normally associate breathing water, right? But when you break down the molecules, oxygen is always there in the two elements, and they're so essential. Without air, of course, we can only last a few minutes. Without water also, it's 60, 70% of us. So in a sense, you're combining these two very essential elements for life, critical elements.